What advice would you have for the young generation with respect to their aspiration to study international relations?
Well, I think that everybody has a vested interest in understanding the world that they operate in.
Right.
I think that everybody should be intellectually curious in the extreme. You should want to know how domestic politics works. You want to know how life inside a family works. You want to understand how international politics works. So my first point would be to everybody who is listening to me, you want to be intellectually curious in the extreme. And what this means, and my second point,
right,
is that you want to constantly be asking questions about how the world works. And you want to constantly be listening to what the sort of big thinkers are saying about how the world works. And you want to think about where you agree with them and where you disagree with them. You want to be an independent thinker. You want to come up with your own ideas on how the world works. I often say to students, one of the great advantages of dealing with me is that it's not that I'm providing you with the truth. Here's the template that you should take, put in your brain, and that will be all you need for the rest of your life. It's not the way we want to think about this. What you want to understand is that John has simple theories about how the world works. And you can figure out in your own mind how the world works by bouncing off my ideas. Now, you may agree with them in part, you may agree with them in large part. Maybe you'll even fully agree with what I have to say about IR theory. That's fine. Or maybe you'll completely disagree. That too is fine. But the point is, you want to have theories in your head. You want to have explanations in your head. You want to have stories in your head about how the world works. And here we're talking about international politics, although I've tried to emphasize, this is my first point, you just don't want to do this with regard to international politics. You want to do it in all realms of life. But with regard to international politics, you want to be constantly thinking about how the world works, because some of the people who are listening will become leaders someday. And if you're running the ship of state, you want to have very clear views in your head about how the world works. But even if you're not a leader someday, if you're a citizen in a country, whether it's Indonesia or the United States or France or South Africa, the fact is you want to have an influence in your country on what your country's foreign policy looks like. You want to be in a position where you can contribute to the debates. And to do that in a smart way, you have to understand how the world works. So my basic advice to young people is to be intellectually curious. And
be open-minded too.
Yeah, be open-minded. Yes, I guess I had forgotten that. You want to be open-minded.
Yeah.
A long time ago, my good friend Steve Van Evera, who teaches at MIT, he and I invented this concept one night when we were drinking cognac and smoking cigars.
Amongst other things.
Yeah. Cool. The concept, we called it the hubris humility index. And our argument was that it's very important for individuals to have a lot of hubris, to be bold, to think that you can solve a problem, that you have an answer. But at the same time, it's very important to have a great deal of humility, right? And to understand that sometimes you're wrong, and to understand that sometimes when you deal with other people, those people have better ideas than you do, or those people can shoot down particular ideas that you have. This is the humility side of the story. I may have a theory of international politics that I tell you about, and you may say, John, I think you're missing a fundamental point about X or Y. And then you point it out to me and I say, oh my, he's exactly right. That's the humility part of the story. The hubris part of the story is I come to you and I think, listen, I have a story that I can tell you about how the world works. Let me tell you, I have my theory of international politics. That's the hubris, right? And you want to have hubris. You want to have self-confidence. But at the same time, This gets back to your point, you want to have humility. So your hubris humility index, right, has
That's
to
a great
be
one. That's a great one.
intact, right? And by that, I mean, you have to have a healthy dose
Yeah.
of both of those qualities.